All right, just a quick test now to see if the stream is working. And I cannot tell yet if it is. I cannot tell yet if it is. All right, so it does appear to be working. Okay, so this is something that I've wanted to do for a little while, but just kind of haven't had the time or energy, and it's a bit of an intimidating thing to do. But so I quite enjoy chess and have also experimented with a handful of psychoactive substances and have always been curious how that affects chess performance. I know that it does just kind of in practice. Sometimes I'll get high on weed or I'll be using caffeine, and I can see that these very significantly change the way that the mind processes information and definitely has an impact on chess, seeming to increase certain elements of the way that I play. So like caffeine seems to lend itself more towards like depth of tactical analysis, whereas weed seems to emphasize more of the positional element while making tactics much harder to analyze. Um, yeah, so I thought it would be fun to kind of calibrate my online rating, which I have not done in a very long time. My USCF rating is around 1600, but that's from like more than a decade ago. Yeah, so to see what my rating is sober, and then to like use a variety of substances to see kind of what my rating would get to on each substance. And I don't quite know exactly how this will work because I have not played online in a while, and so I'm not sure exactly how long it will take to calibrate a rating. Um, and it might be the case that I can kind of calibrate an initial rating while sober, and then use that same starting point for various substances, and then kind of letting it get back to that same starting point. Um, I'm not sure if that makes the most sense. I was also kind of thinking about what time limit to use. Longer time limit seems a little bit better generally, but also makes it more challenging to do this and to like uh, I don't know how many games it would take, and if it's like if I'm playing 10-minute games or 15-minute games, well, that might be ideal. Like I just can't record that much content because I'm pretty busy, and this is potentially a one-off thing. We'll see how far I get with it. Um, but yeah, so I think I'm going to start with like 5-minute games with an increment of 5, just because I think that's a decent compromise. A little bit of increment will be helpful, but still pretty short games. Whereas like 3-minute games would just be too fast, and I'm not particularly a blitz player. Uh, so we'll see if this works. But yeah, so I'll start now, and we'll see how quickly I can kind of get to a reasonably established uh, rating, and then we'll take it from there. I've not done this. Also, I will throw out there, just as a disclaimer, I have had caffeinated tea this morning, so I can't say I'm entirely sober, but that's a normal start to my day. So for the actual caffeine test, I would 100% be using a lot more, probably like somewhere between 150 to 300 milligrams. And I'll try to provide some like analysis of my play and thought processes as I'm going, because I think that'll be helpful. And we'll again, we'll see where things go. It might be interesting to kind of not use this stream as the interesting conclusion, but to like review it, take the information, look at the ratings and my thought processes, and then to do just some kind of shorter video analyzing and comparing all of this stuff. All right. Well, I've got an opponent, and I guess we don't have ratings. I don't actually know how this works. maybe we're both players who don't have ratings, so oops, meant to play d4. So I'd say that my general understanding of opening theory is pretty limited, even though I'm playing like over the board at like a 1600 level. I have honestly not put a ton of thought into opening theory generally, and I actually try to avoid that. Um, I don't like a lot of opening theory. I prefer to play a little bit more intuitively in that regard, which you know does cause some problems in more theoretical lines, or I can get into trouble. Usually, I tend to do a little bit better in the middle and end games. I mean, so far this seems pretty standard. I mean, I can't imagine anything getting terribly complicated right now. This is just basic development. Just applying pressure to the center of the board seems pretty straightforward. Okay, do I actually, I don't think I have any sort of, I don't have any like tactics here as far as, maybe I do. Maybe I could play knight takes e5, bishop takes e5, f4. Well, if knight takes, I guess. Because I do have this. If I play knight b5, the only way to retreat the bishop is to b8, which does not look particularly appealing. And continuing to pressure here. I mean, rook e8 would deal with that threat more or less. So definitely can trade. I feel like I'm going to trade just because it sort of simplifies things. That knight's not doing that much. So knight takes, we still have to play knight takes, knight takes. I can definitely play queen e2, but then he still has bishop g4, which is a bit of an annoyance. I do feel like I'm taking up a little bit too much time here. A slightly tricky position. Alright, I'm not 100% certain about this, but queen g5 potentially is a bit of a threat. Also queen to e3 could potentially be helpful to put pressure on the pawn on e5. I also simply connect the rooks, or I could stack the rooks or play rook e3. The knight move is a bit of an annoyance. I think at some point would play knight d4. Okay, so that makes sense, but I don't know that it actually threatens anything. I can simply move that out of the way, kick it back. He's not really a pawn's defended by the bishop. I can always play king h2 if I need to defend it. Okay, I think he just has to move the knight back. It's not quite the move I expected. Doesn't make a lot of sense. g4, bishop gets kicked. think I actually want to play. Yeah, so if he can't bring the bishop back there because it blocks the rook. He can bring the bishop there, which is fine. I can take it. I can also trade here to remove a defender for this pawn, and I think I might win a pawn in this line. This diagonal is kind of, I wouldn't mind to double those pawns, but that diagonal has always been a weakness. Still interesting that I don't know what this guy's rating is. Unless, again, they just only pair us... Oh, 575. Geez, this guy is not playing like a 575. I mean, yeah, that's not a good move, but still not 575. Unless I've just vastly overestimated my rating. Alright, that does work in defending the pawn. That seems actually interesting that I didn't even take that move into account. I feel like I should have seen that as being a kind of obvious move. Giving him all these knights I don't like. I definitely feel like I have a bit of a bad bishop now. You know, like now I've got to reroute things a little bit. Alright, well, first step. Getting a bishop back, being able to push a pawn to c3 or get a rook to d1. Kind of the knight d4 thing is a bit annoying. Knight d4 is fine, I don't particularly care. Yeah, that makes sense, but I don't particularly think is a threat. Also, that weakens that diagonal a bit. Let's see. So I want to say Queen f3 doesn't immediately work. Still, it's not a bad move because the only defense is bishop to d7. Oh, interesting. So he's just ignoring the threat. Alright, it's an easy trade. So I'm forking the rooks afterwards. Maybe knight takes is also good. Alright, I'm getting a little low on time, but I should be fine. He's kind of... Alright, well, that's just an easy tactic. He loses the bishop, and I take it while threatening things. I feel like his opening was decent, and then he's just made a lot of nonsensical moves since then. It's probably the best move he has. And time situation is no longer a concern. What's the best way to proceed? Probably just simplifying tactics. So I gotta, whoops, to watch out. I definitely can play rook d1. I'm kind of tempted. It's probably not great though. Yeah, screw it. Can't pre-move. that's a setting. All right, that's fine. However, oh, I could have brought the bishop to there too. It would have made more sense. That's actually fine. I mean, this is going to be a pretty simple setup here. Oh, crap. Well, so much for being a simple setup. Yeah, what's the best way to proceed now that I've lost that? Oh, crap. I'm still fine. I guess just take the pawn. Oh, he didn't even see it. I guess maybe he did. Interesting approach, though. All right. At least I'll get some more material out of this. Get the knight to e3. Yeah, I'm not falling for that, my friend. You play rook c6. You should definitely play rook c7, but fine. Because knight to e3 is actually pretty decent. Stop him from being a c2, being able to play rook d1. And I guess is knight to d2 actually an issue here? I don't think so. Let's see. Do I care? Yeah, I think I just take it. Sure, you can play rook f7, but like it's not going to do anything. Does he have any? I don't think he has anything. He's got to do basic defense and can probably start pushing a pawn soon. Yeah, I mean you can play g4, but I'm just going to start pushing. He can't even play g4. He's going to play h5. He's going to go into full desperation mode. And it's not going to work. And the reason it's not going to work is that even if I take here, he has no threats. And the reason he has no threats is because I can play that. Yeah, I see what he wants to do. It's not going to work. Doop. I mean, it's a little unfair. Actually, that's bad. He can swing the rook over. I should have checked first. That would have stopped the rook from getting in. I guess it wouldn't have stopped the rook from getting in. All right. Well, that's easy. Yeah, one of the strange things I've experienced in chess anyway is that players seem to do way better at the openings. and then kind of fall apart in middle games and end games, especially at the lower levels. Just part of the reason I don't study opening theory. Is it just doesn't seem like the best approach to actually getting good at the game. Like actually understanding a little bit more about the principles and patterns and things that you're going for, which applies to the opening. I think when you just start with the opening, you can get you can trick yourself into thinking that you're a lot better than you are because most games at these levels like don't get that far. Then again, ooh, I would never do this. I would just never do this. All right, I'm just gonna go like full crazy mode. All right, well, no idea if this is actually good or not. He also played b4, but like I don't think b4 is great. All right, so I'm just gonna develop my pieces. Really just blocking off any squares for the knight, giving a good escape square for my bishop. My development might be a little bit funky. I'm not 100% certain about what the best approach here is, but it seems like this is there's some like just standard development. At some point, maybe I get to play d5 too. Probably not yet. Actually, when do I play d5? Alright, not certain about this move, but mostly just because it sort of blocks off access from an escape route for the bishop. Yeah, I can see my time usage isn't ideal. No, that's an interesting idea, actually. All right, so I don't know if this is a great idea or not. But I'm gonna play a5 because it stops b4. Okay, that's what I want. It stops b4, and he can't get a knight here, so it's like a good square. And now I've got this move, which does pin the knight temporarily, but mostly just plants the bishop on a good square. All right, so at some point this diagonal will open after I play d5. That's an interesting move. I don't know that I need to be particularly worried about him doing anything. d5 takes. I sort of think the best thing I can do here is queen b6. Get this lined up. I don't really care if he takes the bishop. Um, I think my position is definitely good here. He's probably going to play queen c3. He probably is kind of not particularly happy about this and isn't going to want to keep the queens on the board. I've got like knight c5, although I do have to worry about that piece. But there's a lot of potential threats incoming, as well as the fact that d5 is just kind of annoying. Though he can take. Yeah, so d5 immediately might be a problem. Alright, well d5 is no longer an immediate problem. Just because the e5 is now pretty safe. Can also play g5 at any point. I think I just, at this point, have to go for d5. Break through in the center. I don't seem to have any weaknesses. I don't see another great strategy. It's not like even if he takes here, I can still just take back, and like e4 is defended, so it's not like a terrible situation for him. But I definitely prefer my position. There's a lot of pressure on the c4 pawn. Although I don't think takes. Yeah, takes. There's nothing quite that I can do about this yet. All right, are there any weaknesses here? Or could I just play, I don't really want to play d4. Actually, interesting idea is walking into an intentional pin. The reason for this intentional pin is more because it will line things up in the future. Knight c5 becomes a possibility. The pawn's a little bit annoying actually. If I could get rid of that bishop, I probably would. Yeah, so it's a bit annoying. Alright, let's... Oh, actually... That move doesn't actually do that much. We keep some pressure here. There's some way to open things up because he's so limited in what he can take with. But still, to actually do something about it is going to be challenging. Yeah, there's a lot of potential opportunities to attack. Yeah, so that's the move I kind of expected him to make there. The reason that I don't care there's a lot of reasons I don't care. Alright, I think I just keep going on the attack here. And this is quite the weakness. When I open this, it becomes even more of a weakness. Because he's gonna sort of have to, I guess he can take with the knight. I mean, assuming I actually do well in this game, this is one of the reasons that these pawn structures are not particularly weak, because you've got a lot of backwards pawns that can't easily be pushed. All right, that's maybe his best move. Takes. I think I see what he's doing. I think I can still take this. In the main, he can definitely take. He can't take there yet. Oh, is that's fine, right? I think that's okay. Let's takes. Yeah, let's go for it. I do want to be a little bit careful that I don't hang anything. This is a really tricky spot. He's got like rookie 1. He's got a handful of moves I don't love. That's probably the move I like the most. All right. Yeah, and the reason I like that move quite a lot is just, yeah, you can take, that's fine. Because now this knight can't move because there's now a pin on that rook. So if he does play something like bishop f4, then I want to say I can play knight to e4. I've got knight to c3. There's a lot of good moves. This stuff is relatively well defended. I don't have a lot of time, so I can't really... I don't have time to make a mistake, but this is kind of where I think a lot of the in-game stuff hopefully comes in, where it's like, yes, I spent more time on the opening and middle game, but it's like now that I've done that, I've got like so many like things set up well that it's gonna be easy to play moves. Like there's just no way to defend against everything that I have set up right now. Like maybe queen c2 is the best, but see now it's just like check. I'm gonna get a bit of easy time. I've also got knight to e4. So I can trade off more here. I can stack the rooks here. I could have just taken 2, but that move doesn't even make sense to me. Yeah, because like he either has to move it and then I get a pin. So he's gotta play like something weird. Like he can play bishop. Oh, he can play that, I guess. But he's still gotta drop it all the way back. In which case, queen e6. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. Check. I can take the rook. Well, actually, he can block with the rook. Well, he didn't even see that. Yeah, I'm definitely not doing particularly great at seeing tactics at the moment. It is blitz though. Yeah, he'll probably just resign here. Huh. Okay, so it is going to take a handful of games, which is a little unfortunate. I mean, how long has this been? This is... Yeah, so I'm not 100% certain. I'm thinking that it might make more sense uh, to like establish a baseline rating and then to play the games, and then after I don't know 10 games or something, kind of see where things end up. But again, that's kind of hard to know. With this position, I'm a little more comfortable overall. I mean, not that I know more theory necessarily, but like, actually, I could have just taken that pawn immediately. What the heck? It's a little unfortunate. I didn't spot that. Oh well. Credit to him for spotting it the next move. Yeah, so basically this guy's what, 1,000 or something? 850. Like I don't mind getting into a in game with a player like this. Let's see, best strategy for approach. Well, he's not threatening anything. I think I'll just play rook c8. Basically anything that lines this up is preferable for me. Then c5 is pretty easy. Basically opens up things for my bishop and gets all these pieces lined up, as well as uh, um, actually, if I just stick with the queen, can he defend that pawn? I don't think he can. Yeah, there's no way to defend that pawn. Sounds just crazy. c4 takes, 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 and takes. Yeah, so he can do that, but he's still going to be down a pawn at the end of all of this. Yeah, so this is an example of, let's see if yeah, make sure my rook can't get trapped or something. Um, just creating a little bit of pressure. Kind of force. Oh, well. He just made a very classic blunder. Very quickly, too. I guess one thing that you should always be thinking at this level is just like, what immediate next move is my opponent threatening? What is the next one move? Can they take a piece? Can they do it? Can they checkmate me? Is there a fork? Especially when you have time. Again, I don't want to be too critical of a player who's, much lower rated, but especially because it's usually when I say something like that I make a blunder. It was a good try. If I taken with the rook, he could have taken the bishop and then would have been doing, well, he still would have been losing, but would have been doing much better. Yeah, he can just resign here probably. Yeah, so legitimately if I have to play 5 games to get an established rating, that's kind of not helpful for the test because it's just going to take too long, and even it looks like even if I play like 2 more games after this, my rating is going to be pretty low. Like it's not going to be above 1200. So I feel like I need to establish the rating in a longer period of time, and then probably like adjust from there. So like establish a rating. Let's say my rating gets to 1600, um, and then start like, okay, then the caffeine, and see can I go where do I go from 1600 in 10 games. And then let's say I get from 1600 to 1650, then I would just say, all right, well let's just do 10 games of canvas basically, and hopefully it gets to a stable point at some point along those lines. Like that would kind of be the ideal. Is like take a substance, get to play enough games that like, it seems to be reasonably stable. Like it's not doing anything crazy. I'm not just like if I'm on a huge losing streak, then I could keep going with it and see where it ends. But uh, yeah, just to kind of, I think that would be interesting. And then if it seems like, yeah, if it seems like it's stable or if it's gonna continue on a certain trend, I could keep going with it. There's probably a way I can even like set this up a little bit, uh, kind of like game the system a little bit where it's like, okay, cannabis I suspect is going to cause a much lower rating, so I'm going to drop a couple hundred points. Actually, with cannabis, it would maybe make sense to start a new account entirely because the rating probably won't get as high. Yeah, just trying to figure out, does it make more sense to create new accounts or like adjust or use an existing? All right, what's this guy's rating? 991. Okay. Actually, that's so stupid. I could just 100% have taken the night. Fascinating, 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 fascinating. All right, so we both made just horrible, horrible decisions that make no sense in any, you know, in any reality. Um, should I? Does that make sense? Maybe. It's definitely tricky. No, what is it? Takes. Yeah, that's not great. I think let's just pin this little nigget. All right, all right. Let's play C3. This knight is still pinned. I've got some reasonably okay piece placement. No, that move's interesting. Not totally sure what it accomplishes. Uh, let's just say he follows through and plays G4. Is that a problem for me? Um, my guess is no. I don't care. Fine, fine, fine. Like, maybe he's got a threat here? I'm just gonna pretend like he has no threat. He might have a threat. There might be something scary here that he could do. But like, how scary? And is it as scary as threats I'm about to have? What does that do? Interesting. Oh, do I actually just have knight a5? Maybe I just have knight a5. Or knight b4? No, not knight b4. If I play knight a5 and he takes the knight, I take the rook, he plays c6. I don't like, that's not great. Alright, well I think it's gonna have to be that knight. Because I do want to still be able to play knight a5. And if I take and play knight a5, maybe that's okay. Oh, that might be very okay. A little definitely tricky. Alright, alright. Do I have any serious threat? Okay, whatever the case is, this has to be good. There's just too much stuff happening on that diagonal. I feel like he's going to get screwed somehow. Interesting. Do I have just an immediate threat here that would make sense? I'm not sure that I do. Sure, I've got takes, king takes. I think I just play g3 for now. Ooh, that move can't be right. Can't I just take it? He can't take back because this knight's hanging. And now I'm really getting set up with like a knight here. Um, Alright, I think this is going to be the best option. So bishop e6, he's kind of forced to go to e7. He can't go back. He can't. If he goes here, I've got a fork. So bishop e7, rook to e7. Let's just say he goes back. Can play takes. Alright, that's gotta be good. Gotta be the best. Actually, probably should just take with the rook. Yeah, I mean, I think he just had too many. There were just too many concurrent threats. Alright. Yeah, now it's just I've won enough pawns and his king is too weak. Is there any easy win though? I don't know if there is. See, there's no threat there. His knight's pretty stuck. His rook's not getting into the game. This rook can't really go anywhere. Yeah, I think that's just a pretty easy trade. Just forcing the king back. Make it harder for any of his pieces to get into the game. Gonna win this pawn. Also threatening checkmate. Or not checkmate, but he'd lose the knight. Maybe he'd sacrifice the knight. Go for like some kind of checkmate idea, but it's not gonna work. I guess get the rook back here. Over and up to the pawn though. Alright, well. It was a nice attempt. What do I even want to, how do I want to do this? Gee, he's going that route. I'm not sure why he's still playing at this point. It seems like this is where you just resign. I mean, okay, there's always some possible checkmate, just because I'm leaving that open for him, but it ain't gonna work. Alright, come on. Resign. Resign. I don't have all day. Alright, let's just not stalemate the guy. I'm being stupid. You can take the pawn. I'm kind of messing with him, but I'm also just not putting in the time or energy to find the most simplest checkmate. Doop, doop. It's forced, bro. It's forced. All right, well, one more game and I'll have a rating, but I just doesn't, unfortunately, this doesn't matter because it's going to be nowhere near my actual rating unless they're doing some kind of like analysis on the games that I've played to figure out what my rating needs to be, and I don't think that's the case here. All right, I'm reasonably familiar with this opening. All right, if you want to give a pawn in the opening, I won't stop you. Yeah, wild. Is that actually the correct move there? I feel like it isn't. Is it though? No, it isn't. All right, so I hope I haven't walked into some beginner trap. I feel like bishop g5 is a mistake because if bishop takes f2, king takes f2, knight g4 check. Wait, no, that's not. Is it a mistake? Knight g4 check. Oh, yeah, that would be the mistake. So I think the best bet here would be to play bishop e2. Basically just castle. Yeah, there's some. I'm familiar with this. There's some traps in this. It's like you're giving up a pawn to get an advantage. By the way, I always take pawns in the opening when my opponents give them to me, except one of the crazy lines where it's like, what is it? The Dutch gambit, the Danish gambit, where you play e4, e5, d4, e takes d4, c3, d takes c3, and then you're just like, screw it, I'm just gonna give up more material. All right. I think I'm just gonna end up with an extra pawn here, and I'm guessing that he's not gonna have much compensation or the skill to like do anything with it in the middle game. This is part of the reason I also just generally, well, I don't want to be too greedy, but if I can get an extra pawn going into a middle game or an end game with like almost any of these players, actually, let's say almost any of these players, but like with a lot of these players, like their defending skills in the end game just aren't just not going to be that great. Um, yeah, so if I can quickly get an extra pawn, I'm going to be doing pretty good because they're going to be on the defensive. Oh, do I actually just have? No, I guess I don't immediately. Yeah, so this is a situation where like I don't know if that's the optimal move, but like it's hard to see it being too terribly bad. Even if he has the bishop pair, it's gonna be pretty easy for me to like trade off a set of bishops. Even if I started playing bishop g4, which is kind of a silly move, that would work. Um, he's also potentially, yeah. If I play that now, we got a little bit more of a problem. Yeah, so I think bishop f3 I like, just because it puts pressure on this diagonal, can prepare for e5. And bishop b7 is the obvious move. Interesting. I don't really know that that's a great move. Not. I think this is okay. I don't want to get too far down in time here because this game could get a little bit tricky. Like there are some tactics I can see that he might be trying to go for, or even like queen d4. Yeah, it's like there are tactics that I don't particularly want to allow. Most of them I like. Okay, so that's not a good move at all. He definitely should have gone to this diagonal. Now bishop g4 actually would just trade off the bishops, and there's nothing you can do about it. So do I trade off the bishops? Actually, at the moment that would be quite bad. Um, I can play e5, maybe. All right, so knight a4 forces the bishop off of the diagonal. If he plays bishop d4, I've got c3. Oh shit, that's actually a mistake. I'm basically just gave back his pawn because he has bishop takes f2, king takes f2, queen to d4, forking. Like I'd still be okay, but certainly not ideal. There's definitely that possibility. Yeah, but really I just don't want to give him much. So actually I could play bishop g4, takes. I don't think there's any threats after that. Alright, so I'm just gonna go for it. Because it simplifies the position greatly. And like this can be attacked, but it can just always go back to c3 to block the queen from hitting the b2 pawn. Like really I'm just like playing this pretty darn safe. I'm just like, let's trade off pieces. I'm up a pawn. I trust my in-game skills a lot more than this player. Here's the can he do this? So if I play bishop takes d7, queen takes h2, check. He can't take back the bishop, which means he's got to go. He's got to play queen to h2. And then I've got king e1. He could play. He could take. You know what? Let's risk it. Risk it for the biscuit. I'm going to say I'm up a pawn. I've now got a free bishop. I don't see the forced win. It's really risky. Like I definitely didn't need to do that. Here, what's the best approach? I actually think the best approach here is just going to be to play g4, blocking anything, and I get a rook. So as long as he doesn't have like a checkmate, which I can see that like with bishop f4, there could be something, but I don't see it immediately. Does he have anything here? You know what? I'm going to say he doesn't. I'm going to say there's nothing. I don't know what that was. Oh my. Was that actually the right move? So my blitz rating is 1102. And this has been going on for how long now? What about a warning? Oh, just complaining. It's fine. Yeah, so I guess the question is how much more time would it take to actually establish a rating? I think it would take forever. Now that I have a rating, it would be like hours and hours, might even be days. to get it to an actual rating. So this isn't going to work quite the way I thought it would. So I'm probably going to end this here. And if I have time, I'll keep working on getting this rating up to a decent spot, um, and then can do additional tests. Uh, I wish I could end this at a better place, but yeah, this is just going to take way too long to get my rating anywhere near what it needs to be to make this like interesting or worthwhile. So, well, if you do come across this, thank you for watching. I'm not going to ask you to like or subscribe because I don't think I've actually given you anything worth liking or subscribing to. So we'll see if I can do, if we can make it more interesting in future videos. All right, well, anyway, bye.